Greetings!
Greetings!
One of the best aspects about the Half-Life series is the diversity and variety of its roster of enemies. We have black marines, white marines, trans soldiers, cute aliens, ugly ass alien fishes, thin guards, fat security guards. Oops, wait, these are not enemies. Jokes aside, in this video I will analyze all those enemies from every Half-Life game I consider mini-bosses. But what characteristics define a mini-boss in the first place? To me, a mini-boss is a unique enemy we haven't met before, that hits harder and is way tougher than a standard enemy. There are some exceptions though, especially in Half-Life 1, where some foes fall in between a mini-boss and a normal enemy, and I will first take a look at this grey area of opponents. In Apprehension, we meet an enemy whose strength and resilience are too formidable for a common enemy. Yes, I'm talking about the Ichthyosaur, the nightmare-inducing fish that has traumatized as many kids as the Super Mario 64 eel did. In case you didn't know, the Ichthyosaur on hard difficulty has got the most health points than any other Half-Life enemy, with a whopping 400 HPs. The tanks and the choppers too have 400 HP, but at least you fight them on the ground and can use your heaviest weaponry against them. When facing the Iki instead, we can only use our 9mm pistol or the shiny new crossbow we are introduced to for this occasion. The player might think that the crossbow is the perfect weapon to tear down the ugliest of the fishes, but the dart travels very slowly underwater and it only deals 50 damage, which means that we need to land 8 hits, which is no easy feat cause our opponent moves as if he's in the middle of an epilepsy attack. The Glock is more reliable, but with only 17 damage per shot, well, you do the math. If the Iki had a health bar, you would definitely think you're fighting a mini-boss cause it would go down very slowly. Moreover, the Ichthyosaur is not only tanky, he hits like a truck too and can outswim you easily, which makes him as scary as a boss. So, what are your thoughts on this ugly fish? Do you see him as a mini-boss or as a common enemy? Let me know in the comments. Other grey area enemies are all the military vehicles Gordon encounters in his attempt to escape Black Mesa. The helicopters too have 400 HPs, and in Surface Tension they show up twice, right before we acquire a strong weapon. At the dam, the helicopter shooting at us from the distance is the perfect target to practice the strength of the recently acquired Gauss cannon. On the panoramic cliff too, a chopper ambushes us, but thank God an RPG is lying in a small cave. Earning a new powerful weapon to face an opponent stronger than usual always attributes an aura of importance to that enemy, and that's why I see the choppers as mini-bosses. Time to talk about the real mini-bosses. The first one we meet makes any Hentai fan wet. Of course, I'm talking about the Tentacle. This huge Xen creature has planted its roots inside a rocket silo, and yeah, this plant-looking creature couldn't have chosen a better place to prosper, cause this silo is like a vase that suits the needs of the tentacle perfectly. He can grow as tall as he wants, well almost, and there is even water underneath to nourish him. Moreover, the tentacle's biggest dream in life was to become a famous drummer, and this silo is conveniently furnished with steel surfaces so he can practice his skills and perhaps make it one day in the music industry. His loud banging is the first sound the player notices when entering the silo, a signal that something menacing lies right around the corner. Then we meet the scientist that always has to play the emo part in the Half-Life games, and after witnessing his death without helping him, we get to the iconic "Get it off me" scene, where another dear colleague gets stripped away from the room and subsequently from existence by one of the tentacles. After this tragedy has occurred, one of our Barney friends gets insta-gibbed by the tentacle, and by now I think the player must have realized the killing capabilities of this beast. The only surviving security guard, well, that is if you let him survive, will suggest us to keep quiet, as if this damned monster is going to die just by keeping our mouth shut. Anyway, the tentacle is a puzzle mini-boss, and well, the whole blast pit level is the solution of this puzzle, but 12 years old me thought that by throwing grenades after grenades he would eventually die. After wasting 30 minutes of my youth, I looked up a walkthrough. Patience is key to navigate around him, but patience is not my strongest attribute, and instead of crawling as slowly as my grandma walks, I bunny hop like a Chad, hoping he won't hit me. I won't bore you with any further details on how to kill him, cause by 2024 even toddlers are born with the preconceived notion on how to kill the tentacle, but I have to point out one thing. That, after the long and strenuous journey through the toxic depths of this silo, watching the tentacles burn under their scorching flames and hearing his groans of pain is pretty satisfying. Also, fire against grass is super effective. I will forever see the tentacle as a vegetable though, I can't accept he's made of meat. The game even rewards us with a revolver, so how can't you not love the tentacle? I rate this mini-boss a 8.5 out of 10, it's just iconic and epic. The next mini-boss appears exceptionally early, in fact, Gordon meets him right in the next and 7th chapter, Power Up. It's the unforgettable Gargantua, the blue mascot of Half-Life 1, cause I think that he might be seen as more iconic than the Nilant. And I don't think there is any Half-Life player who dislike this 6 meters tall beast. He also gets triggered extremely easily, as much as Half-Life 2 fanboys do when you criticize their game. According to the game designer Dario Casali, the Gargantua was inspired by the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
Faster.
This movie made waves back in the 90s, and Valve wanted to replicate that tense feeling of getting chased down by a gigantic and deadly beast. Black Mesa takes this statement and multiplies it by 100. His name is also inspired by the French Renaissance collection of novels Gargantua and Pantagruel, which coined the adjective gargantuan, and the cover of this book always steals me a smile, cause he kinda look like Gabe. So the Gargantua might seem unkillable in Power Up or in Surface Tension, however, once we get the strongest weapon in the game, the experimental Egon gun, things take a turn. In fact, if we attempt to shoot the Egon gun at the Gargantua in Interloper, we can indeed manage to chew through the 900 HPs this fucker possesses, and as a result, he will crumble down and explode into pieces. This detail makes me love Half-Life 1 even more than I already do, cause the power trip in this game is real, as it should be in any great first-person shooter. Killing the Gargantua in Power Up by zapping him with electricity is just as satisfying though, especially after going through one of the most intense combat sections in the game, since these power-up corridors are swarming with marines. Also, the way the Gargantua gets compressed and then stretched out by the electricity looks very goofy. Of course, I'm a fan of the Gargantua as much as I love the tentacle. However, the Gargantua is cooler cause he spits fire like a dragon and because he can also run around instead of just standing still like a tree. We also meet the Gargantuas multiple times, and each time the encounter evolves in radically different ways, so big thumbs up to Valve for creating this amazing mini-boss. The Gargantua gets a 9 out of 10, close to perfection. The third mini-boss of Half-Life gets a whole chapter entirely dedicated to her, or him, I don't know. It's none other than the Gonarch, codenamed Big Mama, cause she's the mother of all headcrabs. In fact, wherever she goes, she's always followed by a flock of baby headcrabs who really want to suck on her huge titty to grow as big and strong as her. I see a boob, you see a testicle, we are not the same. And the white substance she spits out is milk, not jits.
Don't drink all the milk now.
Don't tell me what the fuck you're doing. This the first time I done had some.
The Half-Life Wiki points out how some devs inside the Valve's offices thought that the Gonarch was too revealing when it came to its genitalia, cause that thing does indeed look like a swollen testicle. Still, Gabe liked its design, and so the single-balled Gonarch made it into the game. Apparently, the Gonarch represents the final stage of the evolution of an headcrab. Raising the bar states that the chances that a puny headcrab can survive long enough to grow into a big and sturdy Gonarch are pretty slim, and that's why we only meet a single one of them in Half-Life. Now, what could the Gonarch weak spot be? Yeah, it's not too hard to guess. As a consequence, killing the Gonarch is a pretty straightforward task. Simulator ballsack until it explodes. On a first playthrough, a new player might think the Gonarch is not taking much damage, cause this armored headcrab is pretty tanky. Soon enough though, the Gonarch will run away like a scared fat chicken to a second room, and again you gotta shoot him down until she bolts away to a third room, its filthy, cum-stained nest. Probably cleaner than my own room though. Repeat the same simple process based on tickle his huge ball until it pops, and shortly thereafter you can admire the gib of his ballsack cracked open. No suspicious liquid is flowing out of it, but that's probably due to engine limitations, not due to the devs' lack of imagination. Out of all the Half-Life 1 mini-bosses, the Gonarch is my least favorite, and that's due to the repetitivity of the fight itself. All you really do is shoot at his weak spot, and it's not like the Gonarch changes his attack patterns at all. All she really does is spit,
Give him that huck too and spit on that thing, you get me?
and charge, which can get boring. Overall, I will still give credits to Valve for creating an original enemy specifically designed for a mini-boss fight. I am also a big sucker for the Half-Life 1 Xen aesthetics, and there are a couple of spots in this chapter where I would gladly let Gordon Freeman chill and smoke a blunt there, like this hidden floating island I never knew existed. So the Gonarch gets a 7.5 out of 10. Lovely and intuitive graphic design, but the simplistic mechanics of this boss fight don't make it too exciting, especially when replaying the game for the 100th time. Time to comment the only mini-boss of opposing force, its memorable Pitworm. What I love the most about this Race X caterpillar is its graphic design. His big bulging green eye makes it seem as if the Pitworm is constantly geeking out, and the groans he emits are not too normal either. I bet he's asking the G-Man for more crystals cause he's going through withdrawals. Since we can't feed him benzos to make him fall asleep and to make him rest his schizoid eye, we have to find a way to defeat him. Every player's first instinct is to shoot him in the eye, and the visual feedback can mislead you cause he does bleed a brownish substance. However, the best way to overcome this insect on steroids that shoots laser from his eyes is to simply jump past him. This is the cheesy speedrunner way though. The standard method to kill the Pitworm is by going through a process similarly to what we did in Blast Pit. And you know what? Every time I replay Opposing Force, I'm never really sure about what the hell I'm supposed to do, cause the layout of this area is pretty confusing. I know I have memory problems from all the weed abuse, but this time it's the level designer's fault. The way we have to use a hydraulic press to reveal a passage covered by a grate is kinda bizarre, and by jumping down in the water that looks dirtier than the Ganges River, we get to the gearbox pump that will let Shephard raise the waters so he can get back to the Pitworm and show this idiot who is the boss in Black Mesa. Cause you see, the Pitworm is kinda obnoxious, he's very aggressive, he constantly emits ear-piercing shrieks, shoots laser from the distance as soon as he locks eyes, or better eye, with Shephard. I'm a fire in my laser! This guy got no chill at all. So yeah, screw the Pitworm, let's boil this big-eyed shrimp and make some disgusting sushi for all the Black Mesa survivors. How would I rate the Pitworm? You see, I like his graphic design, his color palette, and his behavior too is pretty unique. However, this boss feels like a Tentacle 2.0, with the exception that the chapter flows worse than Blast Pit. This whole area built around this mini-boss isn't as interesting either, so I give the Pitworm a 6 out of 10. Let's shift our focus to Blue Shift. Yes, cause I guess that the encounter against the tank in the Captive Freight chapter can count as a mini-boss fight. Similarly to the Half-Life 1 chopper fight, we are introduced to an RPG right as we meet the tank. This minor fight is self-explanatory. Avoid his fire and shoot the tank 4 times, and pat yourself on the shoulder, cause this small fight poses a bigger challenge than the final Blue Shift fight. Obviously, I can't give this mini-boss fight more than a 4 out of 10, cause it's very uninspired. We have already met plenty of tanks back in Half-Life 1. Speaking about uninspired mini-bosses, let's talk about Half-Life 2. And, well, it's time to open a debate on the topic of whether gunships and striders do classify as mini-bosses. This tricky categorization stems from the fact that 2 gunships are the final boss of Half-Life 2, and a horde of striders constitute the final boss fight of Episode 2. So are they bosses, mini-bosses, or both? Let's see. All things considered, the gunship fight at the Highway 17 lighthouse does feel like a mini-boss fight. Gordon receives an explosive gift from the goofy-looking Odessa, a brand new RPG we will soon learn to hate, cause taking down gunships is not exactly fun. Alarms start ringing, bursts of pulse rifles start pouring down from the sky, rebels keep on being as useless as ever, but this time they're not at fault, cause Gordon is the only one with an RPG, and gunships can only be destroyed with his weapon. It takes 7 rockets to take down a gunship on hard, and considering the meager max ammo pool we get for the RPG, the whole process is super tedious. The only saving grace about the Highway 17 gunship fight is the atmosphere, especially when it comes to the one taking place on the vertigo-inducing bridge. Pretty cinematic set piece, I'm not gonna lie. The same discourse applies to the striders in Fall of Freeman. The way these fights are set up makes me consider them as mini-bosses, but I don't enjoy fighting neither of these 2 enemies, nor am I a big fan of their graphic design. I think they look too robotical. Striders I think are better than gunships, cause at least you can throw grenades or SMG grenades at them, opening more windows of opportunities to defeat them. So yeah, I rate gunships a 5 out of 10, while striders get a 5.5 out of 10. But before the striders and gunships, we meet another mini-boss in Water Hazard. Here there is an helicopter that aspires to become the bane of Gordon's existence. For a good half of the chapter, we can only run away like a little bitch from him, but after a pulse rifle is installed on our hovercraft, the tides turn. To bring down the chopper, we simply have to hold down our fire button and track him while he flies in the sky like a Quake pro player wielding a lightning gun would. Of course, we gotta avoid his mines, and damaging him too much will send the chopper into a frenzy, which is a cool behavior from this mini-boss. According to the Half-Life 2 documentary, this behavior was a bug, but Valve thought it looked cool, and it does, so they kept it in the game. While this chapter fight most definitely isn't peak Miniboss design, it's still amazing to experience, cause we take our manly revenge on an enemy that bullied us for the first half of the chapter. And the atmosphere too, with the sunset reflecting its orange hues on the ponds of water, is spot on. Even though I dislike Water Hazard as a chapter, I enjoy this final mini-boss fight, so I will rate it a 6 out of 10. There is still one enemy I consider a mini-boss in Half-Life 2. He emerges from the Sandtrap's sands, and is the version of the Antlion soldier that did drink his milk as a baby. I'm talking about the Antlion Guards, and we also meet one in Nova Prospect, which is very strange. Antlion Guards' behavior is comparable to the Gonax. They charge at Gordon like a bull, and the way they swing their beak too is similar to how bulls swing their horns. Their graphic design is pretty interesting as well. They have a beak and feathers like a bird, but instead of flying, they gallop like a steed and only thrive when on the ground. They even emerge from the ground. These antithetic characteristics really make their design unique. I rate them a 7 out of 10. They add a bit of much needed adrenaline to the game, and are not tied to a gimmick like the gunships or striders. Since we are at it, let's jump straight into episode 2 and talk about the Antlion Guard Cool Brother, which glows green like a customized car from Need for Speed. It's the Antlion Guardians, and they definitely got swag. They don't even have to dress up when going to the club. The only difference from the Antlion Guards is that they look cooler, are a bit tankier, and infect you with toxins.
Antidote administered.
We actually get to fight them in the open field in the Freeman Pontifex chapter, but the chase sequence inside his nest is our first introduction to this mini-boss and a true highlight of Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Much like the Gargantua, this chase sequence is very anxiety-inducing and pretty exciting to experience. I like how we must fight the guard and guardian together, because let's be real, a single Antlion Guard is not too challenging to defeat. So the Antlion Guardian gets a 7+ for being the shiny version of the guards.
Okay.
What the Oh my god!
On to the third and final mini-boss of episode 2, and it's another helicopter. How original. The saving grace of this mini-boss is that thankfully we don't have to spam RPGs, rockets at it, cause Valve probably realized that it's not an enjoyable mechanic at all. And so to defeat this mini-boss we have to make use of our gravity gun to shoot back at the chopper his fiery and explosive balls. I still wish we had fought something different, like an advisor. They look so puffy and squishy, I would gladly put a bunch of bullets inside them. But yeah, it is what it is, another dumb chopper. So I will rate this uninventive mini-boss a 6 out of 10. It's the same vote I gave to the Water Hazard chopper, because even though the episode 2 mini-boss isn't original at all, the gravity gun gimmick is fun. You may have noticed I straight up skipped episode 1, but that's not due to my weed-induced forgetfulness, but more because episode 1 sports the same mini-bosses of Half-Life 2. What about episode 3? Well, Valve had a little bit of dignity and stopped milking the Half-Life 2 cow, and I really think it was for the best, cause I wouldn't be able to bear more Antlions, gunships, striders and choppers. Alex is missing, but that's because I'm a broke boy and I can't afford a PC powerful enough to run VR games, or I might just be a cheapskate, who knows. So like and subscribe to support my cause, and let me know in the comments if you agree with my ratings. Goodbye.